But when I had exhausted all of that, I was sick about 7 years and I had exhausted all of it. I had done all the things and I wasn't getting any better. And I was on like 33 different meds. I felt terrible. I was about 80 pounds heavier than I am right now. A lot of it was because of the meds and the side effects. So when I was introduced to...
Welcome everyone to another wonderful day and another wonderful podcast with a beautiful lady, which I'm looking forward to because I know nothing about her and that's the way I like it. Just meeting someone for the first time and just have that conversation. My name is Eli Devonte. I'm neurodivergent myself and I help neurodivergent business owners, help them with focusing on their business, making sure things are done in the correct way. But there's enough about me and more about Sharnael, and it's a Dr. Sharnael Sharon, is it not?
Yes, Dr. Sharnael Wolverton Sehon, but everybody just goes Dr. Sharnael. It's too much of a mouthful to say all the things.
I think I'll go with the flow. Who am I to go against it? So what we're going to do, Dr. Sharnael, we're going to do the boring old thing like we do on here, and we're going to ask you, please let us know what you do to help people within your business in a successful way, and then we'll go with the flow.
Yeah, so that's always a kind of crazy, hard question. I choose to make it fun and easy. I'm a naturopathic doctor. But I am also a energy worker. I believe in miracles, quantum physics, neuroscience. I have a small practice. I've written 5 books. I did TV for 3 years. I'm all over social media. I have my own podcast. I own multiple businesses. I have, I guess I should mention my family. I have 5 children. I also work part-time at animal foster shelter, where I have fostered over 107 kittens and got them adopted in the last few years. And kept a few. I've had a couple foster, some people call them foster fails. I call them divine appointments. And I have currently 5 dogs. One is a foster, and I am with the love of my life. And we were together for 5 years, had a 25-year recess, and then 9 years ago, got back together, and we're just doing life together. So, I just do my best to help people find their destiny and to live their best life. That's kind of what I do.
Okay, that's sounding interesting. So you're a woman that does many things, and it sounds like definitely you're a workaholic. So let's just focus on how you help people. So obviously you've got many skills and you can do things in many ways, but just encapsulate it for us from layman terms. Just give us an example, for instance.
Well, if you're going to come to my practice, we'll probably do some diagnostics and see what's going on with someone physically, mentally, spiritually, and then find a road map. You can see one of my cats in the background, sorry. Find a roadmap of recovery. I have a lot of biohacking equipment in my practice. We have red light therapy, lasers, hyperbaric chamber, infrared, ozone therapy. So depending on what the situation is and what calls for the situation, I will connect them with that. But I also like, just working with people on conscious language and, tapping into, imagination and the whole quantum physics of, the supernatural miracles. My latest book is actually called The Science of Miracles.
Okay.
Remembering the frequency of love. And the whole, I guess, theme of it is about people kind of redirecting their path consciously to find a better reality and to pave that path for themselves instead of waiting on some outside source to come fix it, or for the whatever imaginary things that could try to make things happen. And we are the ones. And so I teach people to go inside and to create a life on their own through their own mechanics and their own DNA.
So obviously you've gone down the path of doing everything natural, and you're totally against the medication side of things. Well, I shouldn't say totally against it, but you make sure that you try to do things in a natural way, and you do it from the point of view of spiritualism, light sources, sound. Could I say that? Also, sound, vibration, all that type of thing. Now, that's a lot to undertake because each discipline has a lot to it, and there's a lot to study there, a lot of experience. So I take it you've been doing this from the year almost the dot. Is that correct?
Since the 90s. So it's been a minute. Yeah.
So you started on one thing. Maybe, for instance, you did sound and then you started on the other. And that's because, like I said, each discipline takes a long time to master or thereabouts. So that's how I knew that you've been doing it for some time, because some people specialize, right? They specialize on the light source. But obviously with your expansive experience, you've been able to take on one thing and then the next and then the next. So while we know this, I take it the reason why you've learned so many disciplines, because each discipline is good for specific things. So specific things when people are sick. Is that correct? Rather than one for all?
Yes, absolutely. I guess so. I personally had a thing where I got myself into being sick on my, in the past as well. And so my first guinea pig was me. I actually came from a very Western approach growing up because my dad was military, and we talked off camera about living overseas. I lived in Germany and London, and then I went back to school in London. But I did whatever doctor said. The military is very Western. But when I had exhausted all of that, I was sick about 7 years, and I had exhausted all of it. I had done all the things, and I wasn't getting any better. And I was on like 33 different meds. I felt terrible. I was about 80 pounds heavier than I am right now. A lot of it was because of the meds and the side effects. When I was introduced to a different approach, it was actually by an MD who is very kind of practices more electronics frequency. He uses aromatherapy and things like that. And so I started out probably more on the aromatherapy, like herb type thing. But going back to your question of, did you start with one thing? Because this doctor that I'm entered under had an office full of all of the equipment that I mentioned, literally jumped into all of it. And I was just like, okay. Then I just learned it all. I was like, why not learn it all? And not if we have access to it, let's do it. Like, let's not leave anything off the table.
Okay, so the illness that you had, what was that illness and how did that come about?
Yeah, I was dealing with cancer at the time, and it was very scary. And of course, when people hear that word, people tend to, it's a frightening thing to hear, and they associate it with death. And we all know people who have died of it. So there's a program there of, just assuming or coming into some agreement of that. But it was a big teacher for me. It was a catalyst for me to dive into a lot of different things, to fix and reverse and kind of go back to what I was doing and see like, well, what is it that got me here, and how do I get out of this, and can I get out of this? And
And you, at the time, before you started going the natural route, you were taking all these tablets, and it was 33 different types of tablets. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was mental gymnastics, because at the time I was a conference speaker, and I literally had my own suitcase full of the pills. It was like mental gymnastics with how to do it, because it was like these two had to go together. These two couldn't go together. These three had to be at the same time. This was milk with food. This at night. This a day. This 3 times. Just keeping up with all that was just.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's quite dangerous too at the same time. And at what point did you think that something had to change when you were taking all the 33? So why didn't you just keep on taking those tablets? What happened for you to then think, no, something's gonna switch?
So, I mean, that's a really good question, because for years, I had a ton of side effects, and that's kind of why I got so many.
Ah,
I started
yeah,
this one, and then that would have side effects, so I got to take this to counter that one, and that
yeah,
would have some side effects, and this would have to counter that, and
yeah.
it was just, and the time, dude, Eli, just to go to the doctor, sit and wait, you know,
Mm,
keep on having to go back, and then they send you somewhere else. In the States, it's so weird, go here, go there, and it's a circus. And
mm, mm,
even to get a refill, they won't let you do it over the phone. You have to go in and sit, even if you're not sick that day, go in, and then you're sitting around all these other sick people, and maybe catch something on the way home because you were there for 2 hours and no one's
mm.
ever on time. You could spend a whole day just to get a refill. It was just exhausting. So going back to your question, I got super depressed and
Mm-hmm.
very hopeless feeling, and was just like, I'm so over this. This is the first time I got sick. This isn't the cancer. This ended up being something else. But um, I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't believe in anybody anymore. I was just completely had given up. And until I was teaching a dreams and visions conference in another state, and I came with my little suitcase, and
Mm.
people who were hosting it were watching me pop these pills all the time, and they're probably like, what is going on with her? And finally they asked me, so what's up with all this? I was like, oh God. And it's like, yeah, I've had a low grade fever, I feel sick and achy, and I've gained all this weight, and they're like, you should go see this guy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay, it's cool, we don't need to do that. And they're like, no, really, he's different. And I was like, yeah, everybody says that, it's fine. I've
Mm,
doctors
mm.
looking too. But they were right, and it was a life-changing thing for me. And so yeah, I begrudgingly went.
Mm-hmm.
When I went, the guy is phenomenal, and he has mentored me over the years. I ended up going back to school to
Okay.
be a doctor because of this guy and a couple of other people that he introduced me to.
Uh-huh.
And that just literally led me to this whole brand new path. And actually, I went to school to learn more because I was still doing conference speaking, and
Okay.
I would see these people, and they would see the changes in me, and the weight loss, and my skin was different, and I seemed happier. And so they'd say, well, what did you do? What happened? And then they would want me to teach on that, or they would send me their friends and say, well, can you help her? And I
Mm-hmm.
felt like not capable, right? So I was like, I should go to school because I'm going to have all these people, and I'm going to need to help them. I never thought I would have a practice. I was always doing it for the point of teaching and conferences.
Of
Um,
course.
but then over the years, I ended up getting sick again, and that's when I got C, as just traveling 6 planes a week, constantly 51 countries, working 120 hours a week again. And you think I would learn the first time, but I had to really remember balance,
Mm-hmm.
and go back to the basics and start over again. And so yeah, this time it's been since 2016 now, and I'd like to say I'm better balanced. Do you have a problem with that too? Is it just me? I don't know.
No, I don't have a problem with that at all. But we were talking earlier on, just before you came on, you said you have a form of neurodivergence, not quite, but a form of what was that you was about to speak with me about? And I
Yeah.
stopped you and listeners, I stopped her because, right, we're supposed to be speaking about this live and direct, uncut. So she's just about to start off now. So what was that, please, if you can say?
Yeah. So, and now that you're saying that, I wonder if that goes with any of this stuff that I'm saying. But so it's called dyscalculia, and I didn't even know that I had it until in the mid 2000s. And so I just thought I was stupid. Dyscalculia has to do with math and equations,
Okay.
and finding places on the map, and now we have all kinds of technology to help with that, thank God. But space and time, and anything with numbers.
So you have issues with spatial perception and with time perception.
Space meaning, like, I can drive somewhere 99 times and I usually have to still use help to get there, to memorize it, to I'm better with like locations as far as like turn right at the McDonald's or whatever in America. Stop. I get better, but it's just weird how difficult it is with directions for me. And then like just common math. I've always just been terrible in school. Oh, I'm going to cry. I didn't expect that. It was very difficult to learn. Now on the opposite scan, or pendulum of that, so that it was Dr. Lucky, the guy that I was telling you about, that was able to tell me that I had this. And I guess when I was born, I was breech and the forceps damaged that part of my brain.
I see.
That isn't able to do normal. It doesn't
calculate.
Fire off. Yeah. It doesn't fire off like it should. And when I found out, I was like, a part of me was like, oh no, and then the other part of me was like, oh my God, thank you. Like, that it's not just I'm stupid, it's just like there's a physical issue here, and sometimes I do see things. It does affect typing or writing. I will write letters backwards or forward. So when I'm on the when I like writing my books, oh my God, just to write the books was really, God forbid anyone who has to do my editing, because no one can read anything that I type. They're just, they have to figure it out. So I do a lot of voice text.
I hear you.
Because that's really helpful. And I did the last part of my book a little bit like that too, now that technology is here. But the other ones, and most of my last one was literally typing, which was all, it's like I see it in my mind and I'll still type it wrong. It's like, so do you deal with this too? Is that so your whole thing is?
Yeah, I'm dyslexic amongst other things, and I have problems with maths. I also have problems with words swimming in front of me too. I also have a stutter. I have a problem with speech, but it doesn't seem so because I work hard at it and I've had to hide it for so many years. So there's many things that I have issues with, but just like anything, when you're weak in one thing, you're stronger in others. So I make sure I use those strengths so it hides my weaknesses. So I'm sure when you're listening to some of my podcasts, sometimes I don't speak as clearly as I usually do, because sometimes I listen to my podcast and I think, what's wrong with you? Why are you dropping your T's? But it's because I'm having a bad day. So I do have a lot of issues.
Well, I'm glad you circled back on that part about strengths and other things, because that's where I started to go and then I lost my track. But the good part of the strength part is apparently I'm an exceedingly good reader. Like I'm always reading like 5 to 10 books at a time.
Really?
When I was a kid, I would read. Like
and hold on a second. Can I just hold you there? So when you're reading up to 10 books at a time, can you hold that information of those individual 10 books?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
my God.
And I write, I'll see it and then I'll write it if I need to like memorize things. Right. Like my sister's brilliant. She could read something and it's there forever. 20 years later, she'll pull up the date, the time. I'm like, how do you do that? Like studying was, I have to listen to the professor and I have to read the book. I have to take the notes over and over again. But I do read really fast. Like I got all these awards as a kid. Like if there was a reading contest, I would win. Like I could read more books so fast and retain.
Sharnael, I'm so jealous of you. That's one thing I wish I had the discipline to read. I struggle with reading, but I do try. And I wish, because I love books. I love the feel of books. I love to open a book. I love the words. You know, just the energy of those particular books are just amazing. But I struggle with reading. Even though I read really well, I can only read really well for so long. And I've got certain techniques to help me longer, but the problem is I have problems reading for a long time. So when you say to me you can read 10 individual books, yet still understand what you're reading and you don't get confused between them all, I am jealous.
Oh, well, have you ever tried sleeping with books?
No, that sounds really funky. What's that all about?
Yeah, so I learned this concept from Edgar Cayce. I don't know if you're familiar with the Sleeping Prophet. You should check him out. But
okay,
he would sleep with his books, and then he would wake up and he would know what was in the books. And I believe we have that technology in here. But I accidentally kind of landed on that because my husband's out of town quite often, and when I'm reading, I'll have like my bed becomes like an office. There's like books everywhere, and then I get so tired I end up falling asleep. And what would happen is if he was gone a week or so, when I would pick up the book, I would read it and be like, oh, I already know this, and then down, and then I'd be like, I already know this too, and I put it down. So there's really something to that, and I think it's having to do with our biofield, and somehow, you know, we just pick up the energy of the books. And I'm with I don't like electronic books. I'm not a Kindle, you know, sometimes I'll do an audio if I'm like cleaning or something on a Saturday or whatever, but I'm like you, I like picking up the book, the book and underlining it and dog-earing it, and I like on my notes, and I really love
I really feel you, because I've got two versions of books in general. Sometimes I've got a Kindle, sometimes I've got the physical book, and to be honest, 9 times out of 10 it's the physical book I pick up, and it's so much easier to get to your page. You know, it's so much easier to flick through, stop, flick back, stop, but also just to see those words in real time. You just can't beat organic. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
There's something just like, okay, for instance, I really find it difficult to do the social media thing, and the reason being is because it's not organic. People don't really have a proper conversation, and it tends to be a lot of fakeness because they're all competing with each other, right? But if you have those same people that you've seen fly past your timeline and you had them in a room, a completely different conversation and a more in-depth conversation, that's organic. You just cannot beat an organic book, an organic conversation, or anything organic. For me anyway, works for me, organic.
Well, I like getting old books where someone else read it and then seeing what they wrote in there and their little notes and their highlights.
Oh, you're one of these nosy ones, are you?
Yeah. It's like, well, what do they think was important about this? It's like, maybe that's important to me too. But on the social media aspect, I agree. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of fake, and then there's authentic too. Not everything is, but I will tell you, you mentioned the thing of people in a room. The thing that I really don't like about social media is it's strange how someone can like couch potato quarterback like somebody else's life and like get on their page and then like start an argument or disagree with them. And it's like going back to your in the room thing. Would you ever go to someone else's house, knock on their door and go, hey, I don't like the thing that you said or did, or at a grocery store say, I don't like your shirt, and
yeah, that's true,
hair is awesome, you know, awful. No one would do that in real life, but on social media people can just say whatever and then they dart away and they don't have a consequence, you know.
Have your own say. I would say that. Most people wouldn't, but I would say that I'm quite straight. But you're totally right. Most people, they just wouldn't do that. I mean, they're brazen because they're behind the screen. I get you. They can be quite rude because they're behind the screen. And also, fake confidence. Not necessarily that's a bad thing, but because they don't have to engage one-to-one, eyeball to eyeball, then you tend to find people aren't who they really are. And that's not to say that doesn't happen in the organic world. Of course that does. But more so, I tend to find that online because it's far easier to do that, right? You could look rough behind the screen. You know, your personality could be A, B, and C, but obviously you can say what you want to say, but without being accountable from the point of view. You know, when we're face to face, the tone of my voice lets you know straight away what I said is genuine or not. But when you're doing it in black and white and typing on the screen, you can hide very easily. So it's quite complex. There's no right and there's no wrong. But yeah, I'm more organic. But listen, you know what I'm curious about? Now you have, I can't pronounce it. Now you have this condition. What do you call it? A
Dyslexia. Dyscalculia.
Dyscalculia. All right, forgive me. Now you have this dyscalculia and you have the issue of processing maths, figures, space, time, etc. Now, it was very difficult for you when you was at school. Difficult for you when you was dealing with maths. Take us back to that time so we can understand how difficult it was for you. Where did this all start? Now you've got hindsight. Now you have hindsight. Where did it really start?
Yeah, I mean, from birth. So, you know, school was, anything math was horrific. It was traumatizing to me because I could excel at all these other things and I seemed normal, like to me, you know, but then when it came to this one little aspect of my life, it was just, and I didn't know that it was a physical issue. So it was, I just felt dumb, you know, like on the ACT, I took it 3 times. I know you guys don't do the ACT, but I would score like a 26 or a 30 in reading, which is really extraordinary. And then I would get like a 10 in math, which is unheard of. Like no one can get a 10. You'd have to be this person to get a 10. And I would do it again and again. So it would bring my numbers down to like an 18, which it's barely getting into college with that number. So and I had tutors, and you know, I can remember, I'm gonna get so sad. My dad with flashcards for multiplication tables. Oh my God, the trauma of that over and over at night, like, and just him being so disappointed in me and so frustrated because it just wasn't common sense to me, and just to remember. I wanted to please him. You know, I love my father, and of course I want him to think I'm brilliant and proud of me. And I
hear you.
It's terrible. You know, I just thought there's something really wrong with me, and I had no way of fixing it and understanding how to fix it. Now that I know, you know, if I knew then, and I think if my parents knew then, this is what's wrong, I think everyone would have been a little more easier on me, and I would have been easier on myself. You know, my mother is actually legally blind, and she could see just a little bit, but she, for a long time, would refuse to use a stick, like when we would go in public. And so people would go to shake hands with her, and she wouldn't see it, and people would think she was rude, and they would say things, or they'd say things to me, or she would bump into them, and I'd say, Mom, you know, just use the stick, because people won't be so frustrated with you, and they won't be mad, and they won't think you're rude. And you know, that's what I'm saying, is like, people can have a different perspective if they know, oh well, you know, this is what's going on, and there's a little empathy and a little more grace, you know, instead of just being upset with myself and other people being upset with me because I can't perform, you know.
Yeah. And you had that support, that loving support from your dad, and he tried so much. And I understand that he's trying to help you and thinking, you know, why is this not happening? Where else did you get the support, and where else was your frustration when you got that support?
Well, I finally did get support. My now husband, who I met at 17, he tutored me. And without him, oh my God. And I had some good teachers that really helped. Now, what's interesting is geometry. They can't, anything fractions, anything basic math, anything, you know, I know algebra, oh my God, like calculus. I don't know what you guys do in England, but now they even go to like calculus 1, 2, and 3. We didn't have that when I was growing up. But when it came to geometry, shapes, and geometry, fine, I did great. When it came to quantum physics, totally fine. That was my favorite subject, is quantum physics. But just the numbers and the math, it was just, oh God, couldn't make sense of it. I have support now. I think my parents understand, and they have grace for me if they tell me, hey, can you go drive over to blah blah blah, and I'm like, can you give me the directions? It's like, and then we have these beautiful iPhones that have map quests, and
they make a difference. They're wonderful.
That's one of the best technologies that have ever been created for me. It's like, thank you, but yeah, that's kind of
okay. So you had a really, really difficult time, and not only were you frustrated, but everybody else. But more importantly, it affected you massively, and obviously must have hit your confidence. So as much as you knew you were strong in so many other areas, this one area was quite difficult. So in what way did it knock your confidence? In way interacting with people, teachers, going places, whatever the case may be. And now you see with hindsight, how did it knock your confidence, and in what way?
Yeah, I think to add on to the competition-ish part is my sister is a genius. I don't know if you ever watched the show Doogie Howser when you were a kid. They had that in the States. It was like this kid who became a doctor at like 12 years old and like went to college, and that's my sister. Like, she is legit high IQ. My husband is way up there in his IQ. He doesn't rub it in like she does. She's just so I had that other aspect too of kind of always feeling less than, just that feeling that my parents liked her more, or that now the thing that's on the downside of her, which I love my sister, we do butt heads quite often, but she has zero social skills, like, and now I'm pretty sure she's on the spectrum now that I'm older. Like, I think kind of go, that's why she's so smart. And just zero social skills at all. I, on the other hand, was always the president of my class, leader. I would, with the president of FCA and all, like very social, voted most friendliest in my high school and my college, those kind of things, like very social. But so I don't know if math affected that really, but I can't help to not just say that there was that nagging thing in the back of my mind that just kind of thought, what's wrong with me? It didn't stop me from pushing me to try to do better in other ways to I can maybe make up for it. Maybe that's why I work so much. Who knows what the subconscious is doing.
Well, the thing is that when we're lacking in one thing, we try to be stronger in others. Like I said, it happened with me. As I got older, I was very good at hiding it. I was very good at being able to express myself. As I got older, I was able to be very compassionate. And the reason being is because I suffered myself. So it was easy for me to be compassionate because I know how difficult, from my point of view, when you have a so-called disability, people don't quite understand. So it was very easy for me to sit on the fence when I was speaking or trying to collaborate with a person when they were speaking with me about a certain issue. And it didn't have to be a neurodivergent issue. It could be any issue. And the reason why I was very good at just sitting on the fence and not judging is because I knew how much I suffered when I was younger and getting older. So because I went through that pain, I had an understanding. While if I had a silver spoon, I'd be thinking, what are you talking about? Because I never suffered, I never this, I never. So how can you be empathetic to someone when you've never been in that box? Does that make sense? So this is, when I speak to a lot of people, they tend to have the strengths in other ways, which is what you're talking about. They're more socially skilled, like myself, I can go to most places, have a conversation on, etc. And you're very similar. I'm not saying everybody this happens with, but what you'll find is that they're stronger in a different area on the right than the left, than the left than the right, because you have to survive. It's a form of survival. If I was born and I couldn't walk properly, then my upper body will be much stronger. I'll still be able to fish. I'll still be able to hunt, because I know no different, and I have no choice. I get around it. But that's the same thing with us. So this is why neurodivergent people are good leaders, and the reason being is because they've had to have the initiative to survive, because you feel like you're sinking because I can't do maths, or I can't talk to people properly because I stutter. I've got to hide it. I've got to. So you find other ways. And because we're resourceful, because we've had to be resourceful, I believe this is why neurodivergent people are resourceful. We tend to be leaders. We tend to be very good at being empathetic because we've had to struggle. But anyway, who knows? I may be talking nonsense, but that's
just sitting here listening to you, I'm really putting together the overworking thing. Like, I've never put that together before, and now I'm realizing I may be overcompensating.
That's right.
Or trying to outperform in other areas because of this thing, and I never even put that together before just sitting here with you. So that's very helpful.
Yeah, and it's not just that, but remember, I think you're probably partially outperforming because of your sister. You were made to feel that, you was nothing compared to her. You struggled because the comparison was always made indirectly or directly. And I think that's just part of your makeup at this moment, because you've always had this mechanism that trying to show that you can perform. So you perform in different ways.
Sorry, somebody just walked in the house and my dog went crazy. But yes, I never actually, like I said, I never put that together, but it makes sense now that I'm 54 years old and I just figured that out because you told me. Here we go. Maybe this will help me balance more now that I just have that understanding.
Yeah, I mean, it's good just to, once you accept what it is what it is, then you can do something about it. Because if you come off this podcast now and you believe, oh God, yeah, that makes sense, because you own it, you can decide to carry on how you want to carry on, which is how you have done. And that's not wrong or right. You just got to decide, I'm happy being like that, where I overwork. That's cool. But you may also decide, because you've owned it, do you know what? I do work too hard and I need to do A, B, and C instead. But you're able to do so because you've owned it. You've admitted to it, and you thought, so you now have the choice to go left or right. That's what I meant.
Yes, we've cracked the code. We have a solution here and a new equation. Interesting.
Yeah, I think so. But that's something for you to deliberate and think about when the podcast is over. So I'm very curious. This is why I like natural conversation. I'm a very curious person how people tick, because it helps me to understand me. Because by speaking to you, it makes me think, oh, well, actually, yeah. No, totally.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you should try the sleeping with books thing. I want to hear you try it. And see
really? Oh, I could do it tonight. I've got loads of books in there. I don't know. Should I? I tell you what. If I do the sleeping books thing, and tomorrow I read books even slightly better, I'll come back to you. I'll try it, because I'm always willing to try things. Because
or just knowing what's in the book, like not everything. I can't say I just know everything that's in a book, and it took a few times, right? I was reading a few things and then someone would talk about something and I would be like, oh yeah, I already know that. And then I would read the book and go, oh, it's in here. And then I'm like, oh, well, I don't need to read that then. And then I would do it again and again. I'd be like, am I getting that from sleeping with them? Or did I just already know that? Or, you know what I mean? I kind of tested myself on it, but.
I get you. So this Dyscalculia, how is that coming along now? I know you're getting support from your husband, but remember, your husband's not always there because he travels a lot. I know that it's a situation you now keep yourself busy because you've always got loads of things going on, I suppose, because you don't want to face dyscalculia. You're trying to get around it. How are you coping in general? Has things improved? How's that come along?
I think I avoid a lot of things that have to do with math. When I was in college, I was going to be a veterinarian, for example. I wanted to work with animals. You see all my animals. And I went to school. Well, actually, they told me, I went to the school and went to the counselor, and they were like, hey, go work in a veterinarian for, a bit, because you won't get into vet school without it. I went to vet school. I went to a vet and worked at a vet. They were putting animals down right and left, or they would come in from a car accident or something, and I couldn't handle it. That I could feel, I don't know. I felt terrible. I couldn't do it. So I went back to the counselor, and literally this is what I said, Eli. I said,
okay,
what can I graduate in that has the least math? Like, give me that one. That's what I'll do with the least amount of math. And what came back was actually, I really wanted to do religion and spirituality, but the college that I was in, this is a long time ago, but they would not allow women to major in that at the time at this specific school, which is really stupid to me. Oh yeah, it's changed now, I'm sure, but at the time, if I didn't have the right body parts, then I couldn't be in ministry or whatever. And that's not my path anymore. But so I went with I literally said to them, what can I major in with the least math? Because that's what that's what changed. So I ended up going in wellness and kinesiology, which is which happened to actually be a good base for me to get into med school, because it was just a stepping stone of, still being in the health field and then just going up. So, but yeah, I even determined my life, path based on that.
No, just trying to sidestep your dyscalculia. I don't blame you, to be honest. I really don't. Okay, so just let me know, when it comes to your business, how do you help people within your business? Is it from a point of view of one-to-one as a group? Or do you still do your corporate speaker relationships?
I do a little bit of everything. I thought you were going to say, how do you deal with math? And I was going to say, I have a tax person, I have an accountant. Thank God we have calculators on our phone. Otherwise, I'm just like simple, give me 20 and here's your change. Forget it. It just isn't there. But to your actual question, I do still speak at conferences, not to the level of 6 planes a week anymore. I do retreats. I prefer as many people as possible to say one time the thing, so I don't have to do the one-on-one. But I do enjoy the one-on-one when people come to my practice and make appointments. So, and I also do remote. So I do remote outcome mapping. I do remote coaching for conscious language. I do remote biofeedback. My co-host for my podcast is actually in England. And some people will say, well, how do you do that so far away? I've worked on him long distance and had him running on my machine because of a shoulder issue.
Okay.
And I had to turn it off because I had a client in person and I had to use the machine. And he literally WhatsApped me 10 minutes after I turned it off and said, hey, did you just turn it off? Hold on.
Just hold on a second. I don't quite get that. Hold on. So he's across the world in London. How does that work? So you're in America, you've got a machine going, he's in London, he's got a, how does that work, that cross?
It's insane, but I do it in Australia, New Zealand. My grandmother had fallen, and she's across the country in Montana. I'm here, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. I said, well, send a screenshot picture to me. I sent it, I put it in the software, and it showed that she had a UTI and she was dehydrated. So I called the doctor and I said, she has a UTI and she's dehydrated. And they were like, okay. And so they tested her, and sure enough, she was. And I was able to send her frequencies to help heal that.
Hold on. So I'm just trying to get my head around this. So let me get this right. So you found out the frequency needed. I understand about sound. I do understand about that. So you found the frequency, and I take it he or whoever across the world had the similar machine and they just had to just no. You're saying no.
You don't
What?
have to have the machine. So there's a technology called Evox where a person will speak and send me a recording of them speaking for 30 seconds.
Okay.
And they send me a selfie. Literally, it can't be a picture from 10 years ago or whatever. They have to take it like in person. And the software can read the biofield, which most people have about a 4 to 5 feet field. And then they combine that with the Evox, which is the voice technology that can hear what may be missing or what's out of balance in your whole body based on how you speak. And they combine those things. And then the extra step is they customize frequencies based on those diagnostics and send it back to you right away. And I know what you're thinking. I thought this was weird too. And I'm like, they can't do this.
No, I understand this, because you're talking about the images to do with the light, that's a frequency, and you're also talking about the voice, that's a frequency. And if the voice is missing a certain frequency, it means certain things are happening. It's the same thing with the light, because everything is energy, and if something's not quite right within the energy, it will show up within the signature of that energy. So by the time you combine the two, you can tell one from the other and then you put the whole story together, and that works. Yeah. I understand that because I understand about pure energy and how it works. And that makes sense to me. It won't make sense to a lot of people out there, listeners, but trust me, I believe in all of this because I understand the underpinnings. But okay, that sounds really interesting. Did I go too fast?
No. Well, the first time that it was done to me was by that doctor, and he's in a different state. And I just thought, he was like, I have this new technology. Can I try it out on you? And I was like, sure, and I kind of forgot about it. And then I reminded him, hey, did you do that thing? And he's like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. Sorry. And one day I came home from work, I walked in my kitchen and went to the living room, and I was just on a break, and I got really tired. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And I just kind of sat down for a minute. And then I remember telling my husband, like, I think he might be doing that thing. And it had been weeks, and all of a sudden I was asleep, sitting up on my couch with the lights on, animals everywhere, people running in and out. I never take naps, Eli. I cannot sleep during the day. And I woke up way late in the night. I grabbed my phone to text him and say, did you do it? And he had texted me at 1:55 and said, I'm about to do it. And I was like, and he did that twice, and both times it knocked me out. It doesn't knock out everybody. The third time I had the opposite effect. I had cleared so much out of my field that I had this ATP energy of like a cleaning. I mean, I cleaned out like 23 things of garbage out of my house, and just all the things I hadn't caught up on, and just surges of energy. But it's real. And I still was like, this can't be real. But I was in my car, and the satellite radio went out, and it blinked up this 800 number. And I called it. I'm like, hey, my radio's not working or whatever. And they said, okay, pull over, turn off the car. We're going to send you this signal, and then it'll reboot or whatever. And this guy was in India. And sure enough, he like rebooted my car from India, and the satellite came on like 15 minutes later. The next day, my television went out, which is DirecTV. I called, and this person I think was in Singapore. And they're just like, blah, 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 do this, do that, turn it on. We're sending a signal. And it came on. And I put all that together. I'm like, well, this is the same thing. They're just like booting me like a tuning fork. They're beaming me some frequencies, and it's tuning me up, It works.
Oh, good. So what I'm going to ask you, would you be willing to come back after doing a test on me, and then we can tell the listeners what happened, how it happened, and if anything positive came back from your analysis? Would you do that?
Absolutely. That would be fun.
I wonder, listeners, would you be interested? I know we talk about neurodivergence, and this is neurodivergence. This is divergence. So this is going a bit deeper. So she's got this dyscalculia, but we are diverting into the unknown. So maybe you'd be interested in that. If you're okay with that,
absolutely. That would be awesome. My pleasure. Yes.
Okay, let's do that. All right. So as you was talking about how you help people, I mean, we could be here forever because you deal with so many disciplines. I think we need one discipline per podcast. Because I know a bit of what you do, so I know how in depth it can be. But I think what we're going to do, we'll just leave it there for now. We may we'll have a discussion again. We'll talk about maybe coming back on after doing some tests, and then we'll take it from there, and then follow up if you're okay with that.
Absolutely. That would be so fun. It'd be my pleasure for sure. Thank you so much.
Okay, saying that, so when you help people one-to-one, you help them in a group, but you prefer the group unless they come to your work of residence. And also you do events, you do speak, but you don't do too many of it because you've done a huge amount in the past and you're trying to slow down.
Yeah, and with social media now, I love the platform of being able to not have to be on a plane and go somewhere. But I do miss like hugging people and signing books and hearing their story and seeing their faces. So if you guys are watching this and something stuck out to you, or you have a question or whatever, hit me up on Facebook, or I am on all the social medias, but I like to see faces and connect and send good vibes. And then I have my books too. I have 5 books, and hopefully if people read books, they can apply some of these things to their life. And that's a way for me to help serve as well, of just, letting people do their own thing. I do like the one-on-one, and I love doing remote feedback. And we do like a Zoom usually, or a phone call after results. They're all different, everything has its pros and cons. I just love people, and I love helping people, and I love animals. And I can do biofeedback on animals too, and houses, like we could do homes. So it's fun.
Okay, so let's briefly just go over your books. You said you've got 5 books, so let's go through one, then the next, but keeping it brief so people know what books you have, what they're based on. So and then maybe what we can do, we can link that in the show notes so they can get straight to your books too.
Okay, so yes, I have a book called Keys to Third Heaven. It's spirituality. It's talking about speaking positive things and helping people progress into a better life. My second book is called The Seer's Handbook. It's for people who have visions or see things, and they're trying to interpret what it is that they're seeing and make sense of that language. I have another book called oh gosh, I always forget this one. A Montana Woman in a Louisiana State. And it's just talking about signs and synchronicities, and which is probably a mislabeled title, but it's interesting. My move here was probably the most difficult, but it ended up being a really good synchronicity as usual. My other book is, my last 2 books are The Science of Miracles, which goes into a lot of formulas, believe it or not, equations and patterns on how to repattern your life through conscious language and outcome mapping and just mindsets and belief systems. And then I have a book called Keto Reset. I'm a big believer in keto lifestyle and/or carnivore. A big part of me reversing cancer was also having to do with just changing my diet, getting off carbs, getting off sugar. And so that it's not for everybody, a lot of people have different lives. But if anyone's interested in any of those, then they're all on my website too, drsharnael.com.
Great. And how are people to get hold of you if they need to do a one-to-one or just have that chat?
Yeah, drsharnael.com. You can sign up for soul audits, outcome mapping, coaching, biofeedback. There's all kinds of workshops if you just want to learn how to muscle test or learn about divine partnership or outcome mapping. If you don't want to talk to me, you could just take the class. I have one on there about crystals and decrees and essential oils. And then I actually have a card deck too. I forgot about that, but it talks about crystals and the power and the frequency of them and how they work together with the biofield and with your body. And yeah, I mean, just all the social media stuff. I'm on, I know you don't like it, but I'm on Facebook and TikTok and YouTube, my channel.
Bah humbug.
I know. I do have a podcast too on Thursdays at noon, and actually in just in a few minutes we'll be on. And so you guys can find me pretty much everywhere. If you just type in Dr. Sharnael, something will come up.
Okay, so what is the podcast called?
The podcast is called Dr. Sharnael True TV. And it's about living true and embodying truth. And we have a lot of different people come on that talk about the supernatural, the paranormal, health things, that kind of stuff, miracles,
okay, cool.
Experiences. I love all that kind of stuff.
So as you can see, listeners, if you need someone to see things from a natural point of view, if you're not too well, you want to try something a bit different, you can see why she's in this space, and she does well in this space because she's had to live a life where it was difficult for her to be her true self and try to navigate life in a specific way. She went through the cancer, and with 33 combinations of tablets. Oh God, who wants to go through that? But by taking that journey, she understands through proof and through her way how she can help from a natural point of view. So if she resonates from you, if she resonates in a way that you feel she may be able to help you, or you just want that conversation, you have nothing to lose but time itself. Sharnael, thank you for your time. I really do appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Eli. And I look forward to doing our biofeedback scan. And thank you for what you're doing and bringing awareness to this whole topic. It's beautiful the way you're talking to people and allowing people to experience what they're going through and help people not feel so alone. I appreciate you so much in your work.
It's really important to me, and there's a reason for that, but I won't go into it. But thank you for saying that. It's very important that I get the word out and people do not feel alone, and shorten the curve of pain. And I try my best. But in the meantime, listeners, we say goodbye to her and thank you for her time. And I will say goodbye to you by saying sayonara.